And now let's talk about Joe Biden caught on hot mic calling Peter Doocy a stupid son of a bitch for asking about inflation. You know, I don't know how many times I can say the emperor has no clothes. The New York Post reports President Biden called Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy a stupid son of a bitch Monday after he asked Biden about soaring inflation. Wow. Do you think inflation is a political liability? Doocy asked Biden as the press was ushered out of an event in the White House East Room. Now, I think it's fair to say Biden didn't realize he was actually responding. I think he thought the mic was off or whatever. He says, no, it's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch, Biden sneered into a hot mic. The president's vulgar insult was cut from the White House video feed, but was audible on C-SPAN. Doocy's question about inflation came after a Fox News poll released Sunday found that 85% of Americans are worried about inflation, which hit a 40-year high of 7% in December. Now, look, Joe Biden, this is a great question from Peter Doocy, because Joe Biden is presiding over massive inflation. Mm-hmm. If he was actually pressed on this in an open setting, not, Peter Doocy like walking out of the room, all the reporters are yelling. Right. Joe Biden would have to deflect or defend rampant inflation.
Or say, yeah, it is. What was the phrasing? Is it politically
a political liability?
For him to say, yeah, it is a political liability, but you got to understand it's bigger than the presidency. Like, he could be honest about it.
I suppose.
Good luck.
But he wouldn't.
Would have been cool.
Jen Psaki wouldn't. When Joe Biden questioned the legitimacy of the midterm, Jen Psaki claimed he was talking about Trump. Like, what? No, Joe Biden said that. But here's why I think it's so important. Because you've got this from CNN, why inflation can actually be good for everyday Americans and bad for rich people. I think regular people are just every day. It's a bucket of ice water thrown in their face. Oh, yeah. Because imagine you're somebody who's, you're probably not that smart, to be honest, if you believe this stuff from CNN. And I think I'm saying that because I'm confident nobody who watches this show is stupid enough to believe the lies coming out of this inflation stuff where like, inflation's actually good for you. But imagine you are somebody. Okay, I don't want to be too mean to these guys. Let's imagine these people are ignorant. They read this story and they're like, oh, I get it. That makes sense. And then you hear Joe Biden call someone a stupid son of a bitch for asking if it was a liability. He said no. And you're like, wait a minute. But CNN, these media outlets are telling me it's not bad. Why would Biden get so angry over this? Hey, maybe they're lying to you guys. Yeah, what do you think?
About that tone, man.
I mean, at the end of the day, whether viewers and readers are politically astute or not, when you go to the store and a pack of bacon that used to cost you $6 now costs $9, and the price of gas is going up. If the price of eggs and milk, if you can even find them on the shelves, I think that's where most people feel it, right? They feel it in their pocketbooks, and a lot of the political debates that are popular in Washington, again, these pocketbook issues are really, I think, what drive voters, particularly if they feel like the president is the one that's causing it.
Right.
If his policies are causing it, then I definitely think it's a political liability, and I think that's why he responded so sarcastically and saying, "Oh no, it's an asset." I think he knows.
I've been feeling pretty good lately. Watching Joe Biden gaffe and like poop his pants and kind of stuff like that, because when he says stuff like this, but regular people are experiencing the problems. It shows it's like you said, the debates in Washington. They're so out of touch with America.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So like a few years ago, the way I described it was like there's this giant maelstrom, this big whirlpool that we're all stuck in, but it's shrinking and spinning faster and faster, and we're getting ejected from it. Like regular people were getting thrown from the mainstream over having questions, being like, hey, I don't understand this particular policy while you're doing it. Oh, you're far right. Get out. It's like, okay, I'm out. I'm gone. Now it feels like the political elite and the establishment media types are in this tiny little section spinning in circles, screaming at the top of their lungs. Nobody's there anymore. Nobody cares about their debates or their arguments. They know it's all busted up. So I was actually going to ask you this. I was going to say, how long until the war in Ukraine with Russia makes everyone forget all about this? But no, that's why I said I've been feeling good, because I don't think they will. I think we're at a point where our generation they're not going to be sucked up into the manipulation through war. You know what I mean?
I saw this video of this girl, I think it was in England, crying about the masks and what it had done to her generation. I don't know if you guys, this was devastating. And this is something every human, I think, should see this at some point. But I think that the trauma that's been imposed on people because of this COVID masking mandate stuff is no one will ever forget this, that this is now part of the human experience to see this happen to a society and God willing that we make sure it doesn't happen again unnecessarily. I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a recent article in The Blaze where I talked about COVID-19 has unleashed a new era in sort of American political and social life. So, you know, we obviously early on in our country's history, we had the colonial period and Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, civil rights. I call this the era of the God King. And I think as I call it, the unholy trinity of big government, big business, big media have completely inverted our political system. So instead of them seeing themselves as serving our interests, they see us as serving their interests. And that's why they get so upset and so vicious whenever any of us have the audacity to question them. So it's no longer the consent of the governed. It's, no, we tell you what to think. Don't question us. As you said, if you do question us, oh, you must be alt-right. It's just like, no, I just want to know why my 2-year-old has to wear a mask while you guys go out and drink margaritas and you know, go to Taibo maskless. Like, I think those are legitimate questions, but I mean, you see this from Washington every day. And the craziest part of it is how many liberals, leftists, self-proclaimed progressives have lined up behind it. Like, I'm from a generation, like I look at sports, where the media, particularly sports media, would reflexively take the side of players over management, regardless of the dispute. But now you got guys like Stephen A. Smith is saying, oh no, Kyrie Irving is a bad teammate. He's terrible. You know, and you have analysts on ESPN who I know will never question the narrative that's being, you know, pushed down from on high. And these guys are tools. Howard Stern, same thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, dude.
It's like I used to watch Howard Stern show. I mean, this guy.
Didn't he call Oprah fat recently?
Ooh, I don't
he
know.
did. He doesn't like that.
It does cross my mind.
But it's funny how, you know, Howard Stern used to be edgy and anti-establishment.
Yeah.
Now he could not. If he licked boot more, he'd be getting to the foot.
Yeah,
he'd be like
for sure.
he'd be licking the straight foot because he's just getting right through
Yikes.
it. There was like Oprah had this party, and then it was so against the establishment COVID narrative that he started mocking Oprah and going after Oprah. I'm like, wow, man, like
Yeah.
that's pretty brazen to go after Oprah because she's like, you know,
Yeah.
she's the queen of culture, or was for a long time.
So,
in the United States.
so you can see where he's finally found his line, right? It's not, you know, chucking little people through the air. It's not, you know, getting strippers on TV to talk about the types of things they do in their bedroom. It's, if you disobey Dr. Fauci's COVID, you know, mandates, and you're a terrible person, you're a terrible American, and I hope you die. And it's like, where did all of this come from?
I think he's a good example of like someone panicking.
Yeah.
It's less about like, I'm angry you're not following the mandates. For it seems to be more he's about, I'm afraid of getting sick.
Right.
And so he's like in this frazzled, wild state of yelling at people to do what they're told. I don't know, man.
Yeah. See, but this goes against nature, right? No, pack animals never put the most neurotic, most afraid, you know, sort of animal at the front. Those guys got to go to the back. But we're being led by the anxious, the fearful, the neurotic, the docile, the gelded, and they're the ones telling everybody else what needs to be done.
Is this because because of generational wealth?
I think it's a cultural issue. I think that we've been too comfortable for too long. You know, you've got the concept of the fourth turning. You know, Strauss-Howe generational theory. You've got, you know, strong men make good times. All that's, you know, for those who aren't familiar with it, strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men. I think we're just in the weak men phase where you've got like the try guys on BuzzFeed with no testosterone, and I mean but I'm not saying to be mean to them. You know what I mean? But it's true, right? Yeah, so I was thinking about this too. I did a segment on the low testosterone generation because, you know, there's stories going back 10, 20 years about how the testosterone levels are rapidly declining.
Yeah.
They think it might be the plastics leaching into food or something.
Antibiotics could be.
It could be antibiotics. It could be women's birth control in the water supply and then getting recycled to something like that. It could be soy consumption being put on. So I don't.
They spray the soy with before they harvest it.
Yeah.
Glyphosate.
There's phytoestrogens in soy. And there's two arguments about this. One is that phytoestrogens being weaker than estrogen will block your estrogen receptors and actually have a lower impact as opposed to your natural estrogen, because men have estrogen in their body.
Right.
But when you're getting constantly slammed and inundated with a weaker form of estrogen, it could have an impact. So I don't exactly know the reason, but I will tell you, I think that's a contributing factor to an overly feminized society, which results in people unwilling to take the risks required to fix a broken system. That kind of mentality or imbalance results in despotism. It results in, someone like Joe Biden. It results in these leaders that say, you can't challenge them. You can't take the risk because, this is my personal view based on, research and things like that. Men, this is a fact. Men tend to take more risks.
Right.
Women tend not to. So if you have a well-balanced society between men and women, the feminine, the masculine, then you're going to be well off because you're going to get some crazy guy who's like, I say we jump off the cliff and then I'll try and grab onto a guy who's got a parachute. And then you might have a woman who's going to be like, I think that's a crazy risk. I don't think you should do it. And then maybe talk the guys back a little bit from going too crazy.
Right.
But now we're getting it's imbalance. It's shifting all into the feminine, which is it's toxic femininity. So you'll end up with people who are unwilling to challenge system, unwilling to speak out. They don't want to go against social order. It's too risky. Stay the course, and the storm will all blow over.
I've got this feeling that I really have a lot of respect for a self-made man, someone that comes from either medium or low means and then makes a great empire or a career. And that's where I feel like with generational wealth that weak young men are inheriting a large amount of power. And then because they have the power, they have the TV channel, and little kids then see them and think that's normal, and they're too afraid to take any risks. They don't want to lose what they've had their whole life. Whereas when you come from less than nothing or like not much, there's nothing really to lose. You just give it your all. I mean, what else? That's how you got here in the first place.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you look at this show, I don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I definitely think there's something to that, right? The generation that builds the wealth and hands it on to the next generation, like that next generation, sometimes they can manage and steward, but by the time you get to the third or fourth, I mean, they're all about squandering it because they didn't work for it. So it doesn't mean as much to them. But I remember, again, the very first column I wrote for The Blaze, I juxtaposed, and this was sort of, swimming in the mainstream of culture, I juxtaposed an artist like Megan Thee Stallion. Right? She had a song with Cardi B, WAP, and that was a big thing in conservative circles and how vulgar it was. And then I said, here you have Megan Thee Stallion. So stallions are uncut horses, wild, uncontrollable. And then you have the cultural geldings, all of the men who would be too afraid to say anything critical about Megan Thee Stallion in public. And these are guys who, again, oftentimes work for corporate media and academia. If somebody like me says, look, I don't want my daughter ingesting this crap because it's garbage. And if the 90s, particularly as it relates to hip hop, was about keeping the boys out of the gangs, then the 2000s and the 2020s are going to be keeping the girls off of OnlyFans. And I know exactly the type of men who would come up and criticize me for that. Right. And I think our country is being led by those types of men. So,
white knights.
There it is.
Yeah.
White knights. For sure. And I think 2022 needs to be the year that we get rid of white knights, honestly.
But it's a combination. It's so there. Vox.com had an article I reference often that like about 70% of millennial women are Democrats. So they're all voting, and then you get about slightly more millennial men are Republican. I think the men, for the most part, not completely. I think there's two parent trees in the Democrat voter base: the ignorant default liberal types and the exploitative. I think the right and the Republicans have that exploitation as well. But whatever the cultural right tends to be right now, it's an eclectic bunch of varying political ideologies. So I don't know how you describe it. But among the Democrats, you've got people who are like, I'm going to say whatever I have to to this woman so that she comes over to my apartment and and gives me what I want. And so they're just like, yeah, whatever you say. Oh, of course.
Right.
And then you've got regular people who are just like, seems that this is what everybody wants.
Right.
So I'm going to vote for it. And then you've got people who are willing to challenge, go against the grain, risk things, risk their careers, and they're going to speak up and say no. But that's why I said there's an imbalance, because the willingness to take risks for the betterment of society is really low.
Yeah.
It may not have anything to do with testosterone. It may have to do with luxury. Like, life is just too good, man. Right. You can order pizza off the internet. You know what I mean?
I think it really has to do with too much free time. We have too much free time because we have disposable income. And when we have free time, we get into our own heads. We become very self-centered. You become very narcissistic. And if you don't have children and if you don't have like fulfilling familial relationships, you're going to kind of fall apart because humans demand that kind of structure. Like, we really don't do well without one another.
It's crazy. COVID has opened my eyes, man, to that there are followers and there are shepherds in their sheep.
Oh, yeah.
There are people who are like, yo, just tell me what to do. And there are
Yes.
people who are literally, don't you dare tell me what to do.
Yes.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.